Everyone turn on your cameras.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Okay.
Good afternoon, sir.
The guy who hates me, are you? Yes. Okay, today we will discuss about the endocrine system, about the thyroid gland, and about the parathyroid, and about the adrenal glands. Okay, how you should give the activity. Don't try to read from Google, okay? I have sent to Awais my textbook. Awais, did you send
Yes,
them?
sir.
Awais,
Yes, sir.
okay, use my textbook because
Which
I was
textbook?
trying to type in this textbook in details, which you really need in future. That's why, okay? अच्छा.
Yes, sir.
Wes,
अच्छा बहुत
वैस कौन सी टेक्स्ट बुक है?
तो यार वो उस दिन लास्ट टाइम भेजी थी
Oh, Ibtisam,
भेजी।
I have
Yes,
bad
sir.
news. You are first. You are first.
हाँ मैं
Sir,
Yeah.
this is not fair.
Alina Khan, show me your face. Okay. Okay, the first superstar he's a boy, he's a magic, and he has, I think he's a professional photographer, and his name is Ibtisam. Ibtisam.
माशाल्लाह।
Yes, sir.
इल्तिसाम photographer.
Sir, can you show us the picture?
Sir, from
Ibtisam Rahman,
endocrine.
please. Thyroid
Sir,
gland, then parathyroid gland, then adrenal gland. Did you get my textbook?
yes, sir. I got your textbook.
That's enough. Come on. Don't stop. Don't call me. I'm here.
Okay, sir. Let's start. Endocrine system. The endocrine system it interacts with the nervous system to coordinate and integrate the body activities by the means of hormones. And what are the hormones? Hormones are the chemical messengers directly secreted into the blood of or the extracellular fluid in our body that is present in our body, which binds specific receptors on the target cells. And sir, the functions of the endocrine system includes the following: that it regulates the metabolic processes, controls the rate of chemical reactions, and it aids in the transport of substances across the cell membranes of the target cells, and it also regulates the water and electrolyte balances, and it's play a vital role in different body functions like reproduction, growth, and development, by the production of various hormones like
बात नहीं क्या कहते हैं यार ये जो क्या कहते हैं आज मैंने अभी पीडीएफ भेजी ना
Yeah.
उसमें से
You are
सुना
using the power PPT, but PPT is no, it's uncomfortable. It's little
मुझे
bit.
सर पीछे से ना मुझे व्हाट्सएप पे मैसेज कर रहे हैं कह रहे हैं बच्चे इधर से सुना रहे हैं थोड़ा आगे पीछे करके उसी पीडीएफ को यूज करके सुना
अच्छा sir, let's the hormone mechanism about how it acts. There are the hormones have the specific roles. They don't follow the same the same mechanism. Like they work in the presence of receptors of the cells of the target issue is required, and we have the three types of receptors, which are the nuclear receptors, cytoplasmic receptors, and membrane receptors. There are different types of, and the mechanism of action. The mechanism of action is by altering the cell membrane, by the acting of on genes, or by the activation of intracellular enzymes. And sir, they the in the endocrine system, the brain is also included. The part of the brain which includes is the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is a part of brain. The function of hypothalamus is that the hormones are transported
Sam,
by the.
Sam,
Yes, sir.
hi, please tell me about the thyroid gland, parathyroid gland, and adrenal gland. Just focus on this. About the,
Uh,
and then we will discuss when we will get the nervous system.
okay, sir. About the pituitary gland.
No, about the thyroid gland and parathyroid gland and adrenal gland.
Okay, sir. The thyroid gland.
I will send him my textbook.
Okay, so the thyroid gland is located in the neck, and
ओए एक
it
शाम
weighs.
है जो
uh,
मैंने पीडीएफ भेजी है ना ग्रुप वाली उधर से वही सेम टू सेम सुना यार
The thyroid gland is located in the neck. It has two lobes which are connected in the middle of the isthmus, and it weighs about 20 to 40 grams in adults. And the thyroid gland produces thyroxine and two iodine-containing hormones, thyroidramine T3 and thyroxine T4, and it also contains calcitonin, which stimulates the calcium uptake by bones. If we talk about the release of thyroid hormones from the thyroid glands, it occurs in the sequence of events, like the follicular cell sends foot-like extensions like pseudopods, which close around the thyroglobulin hormone complex, and the pseudopods converts thyroglobulin hormone complex into small pinocytic vesicles. Then the lysosomes of the cells fuse with these vesicles, and the digestive enzymes such as present in the lysosome digest the proteins. And and now we come to the transport of the thyroid hormones in the blood. The thyroid hormones are transported in the blood in the three forms, like in the thyroxine binding globulin TBG, and the thyroxine binding preglobulin and albumin. The functions of thyroid hormones is to increase the basal metabolic rate, to stimulate growth in children, and these are two functions of the thyroid hormones. And it also acts on the gastrointestinal tract. It also acts on the central nervous system. It also acts on the respiration. It also affects on the arterial blood pressure, on the blood vessels, heart rate, action of blood, the force of contraction of the heart, and also the body weight, body temperature, and vitamin metabolism. And said that if we talk about the disorders of thyroid gland, there are various diseases associated with the thyroid hormones, like the Graves' disease, the thyroid adenoma, hyperthyroidism. Increased secretion of thyroid hormones is called hyperthyroidism, and the symptoms might include like intolerance of heat, increased sweating, decreased body weight, diarrhea, toxic goiter, and so tachycardia, arterial fibrillation.
ओए बस कर पता नहीं वो सुन भी रहे कोई
दूसरा कौन सा कहा था सर ने?
बस
No,
पूछ
I'm listening. Don't pass, Karo. Come on, continue.
पैराथायरॉयड
कंटिन्यू रख बस उसे पता नहीं है कि वो खो गया
Parathyroid. Sir, if we go on the parathyroid hormone, the parathyroids are the four small glands which are situated on the posterior surface of upper and lower poles of the thyroid gland, measuring about 6 millimeter long, 3 millimeter wide, and 2 millimeter thick with dark brown color. The hormone they produce is parathyroid hormone, which regulates the level of calcium in the blood. Parathormone is a protein in nature having 84 amino acids, half-life and plasma level. A half-life of 10 minutes, normal plasma level, PTH is about 1.5 to 5.5. The action of parathormone on blood calcium level, the PTH, the parathormone hormone maintains the blood calcium level by acting on bones, kidneys, and the gastrointestinal tract. And the role of PTH in activation of vitamin D, it plays a vital role, which is very essential for calcium absorption from the gastrointestinal tract. But vitamin D is not an active substance. Instead, vitamin D has to be converted into 1,2,5 dihydroxy cholecalciferol in the liver and kidney in the presence of parathyroid hormone. The action of parathormone in the phosphate level, it acts by acting on the bone and on the kidney and on the gastrointestinal tract. The parathyroid hormone decreases blood level of phosphate by increasing its urinary excretion. It also acts on the bone and the gastrointestinal tract. Regulation of parathormone secretion. Blood level of calcium phosphate is the main factor regulating the secretion of PTH. Blood level of calcium and conditions when PTH secretion decreases are excess quantities of calcium in the diet, increased vitamin D in the diet, increased reabsorption of calcium from the bones caused by some other factors such as bones diseases. And the disorders of parathyroid gland includes the hypoparathyroidism, hyperparathyroidism. In the hypoparathyroidism, the causes are surgical removal of parathyroid glands, removal of parathyroid glands, autoimmune diseases, deficiency of receptors of for PTH, and the symptoms might include hyperreflexia and convulsions, carpopudal spasm, laryngeal steroid, and the cardiovascular changes like dilation of the heart, prolonged duration of ST segment, arrhythmias, hypotension, heart failure, and other features may include decreased permeability of the cell membrane, dry skin with brittle nails, hair loss, signs of mental retardation in children, and dementia in adults. And sir, the signs the second disorder can be hypercalcemia, which whose symptoms includes depression of the nervous system, sluggishness of the reflex activities, reduced ST segment, QT interval in in ECG, lack of appetite, constipation, and so. Done, sir.
Okay, enough. Next superstar is Alina Khan.
Yes, sir.
Alina Khan, turn on your cameras. Okay, you look so sad.
Yes, sir.
Who broke
No,
your
sir.
heart, Ibtisam or Muhammad Awais?
Muhammad Awais.
Okay, situation of Muhammad Awais is fatality. Okay,
Yes,
Alina
sir.
Khan, you can start. Thyroid gland,
Okay, sir.
parathyroid gland, and adrenal gland. Use my
Thyroid
textbook,
gland.
guys,
Yes, sir.
please.
Yes, sir. The thyroid gland is situated on the neck in front of the trachea and the lateral wall of the larynx. The part of this gland is contact with the thyroid cartilage, hence its name. It consists of two right and left lobe and isthmus lying transversely and joining the lateral lobes of each near to the lower end. A thin process which is called pyramidal loop extend upward 30% case from the isthmus and may reach the hyoid bone. The weight of thyroid gland is 16 to 18 gram and up to 2 to 5 centimeter. The upper part of the lateral loop overlap external surface of the thyroid gland. Inferiorly lobe the extend to the fifth and sixth tracheal cartilage, and posteriorly the lateral loop of the intimately related to the wall of the pharynx and esophagus. That is why the swelling may occur and compression of the esophagus laterally lobes lightning. Thyroid gland is covered by carotid artery and it extend to the fifth to the sixth tracheal cartilage, the common carotid artery and intrajugular vein and vagus nerve in front of the capsule give of process into the tissue of the gland and cubic located in the basement of the membrane between the thymocyte and the synthesis. The toxins, and the component is iodine. The function of this hormone is determine proper development of the tissue, bones tissue, and particular metabolism functioning of the nervous system. Thyroxine exchange from the calcium and reducing the content calcium and blood and reabsorption of the calcium in the bone. The thyroid gland complete.
Thyroid is then parathyroid, then adrenal gland,
Parathyroid gland.
step by steps.
Okay, the parathyroid gland is usually 4 in number, and two superior and two inferior are in a small body situated on the posterior surface of the thyroid lobe. Quantity of the gland can vary from 2 up to 8. The average dimension of 6 mm in length and 4 mm in width. And total weight of all gland is 2 to 3 gram. They are pink in young subjects and but accurate in the yellowish and brown color with age. The parathyroid gland are located near the entering of the thyroid gland and superior and inferior thyroid artery. The gland are covered with the connective tissue capsules from the capsule deep into the glands and dividing a parenchyma in lobules. The parenchyma of the gland is presented by the parathyrocytes. Function of the parathyroid gland is regulate calcium and metabolism in the body. The hormone of parathyroid gland is called the parathyroid hormone. In activities, osteochalates and promote secretion in the ions of calcium and bones in the blood. The supraadrenal gland. The supraadrenal gland are paired organs situated in the peroneal space above the superior and corresponding kidney. The right adrenal gland at the front look a triangle with rounded angles. The left and adrenal gland look like a surface, the renal surface, which is called renal surface. The length of the gland is 4 to 6 centimeter and height is 2 gram. The adrenal gland lies on the level of 11 or 12 thoracic vertebra. The posterior surface of the gland is a visceral surface of the liver and duodenum. The lower border on the inferior vena cava are left adrenal gland border of the aorta. These are the helium through which supraadrenal veins leaves the gland and arteries. The structure of this gland is a suprarenal gland covered with the fibrous capsule which give off the trabecules. It can be seen in the section that can gland consist of two layer cortex and medulla. The cortex is formed of 3 zones which produce different hormone and glomerular zone which is produced by the aldosterone exchange stimulate the glucagons and glucogenesis rise a level blood sugar glycogen in the glycogen produced male and female genital hormones. The medulla consists of cell secreting muscle and bronchus rise the systolic blood pressure and narrow the vessel of the skin. The narrowing of vessel except for brain rise systolic and diastolic pressure, weakness, smooth muscle and bronchus, and deepen breath, etc. The secretion of adrenaline and in the normal condition is significant and inversely grow to the excretion and sympathetic nerve system in various stress situations. Done, sir.
Okay, enough. The guy who broke your groupmate's heart is Muhammad Awais. Muhammad Awais. Turn on your
Yes,
camera.
yes, sir.
Please, you can start thyroid, parathyroid, then adrenal glands in details.
Okay, sir. One. तुम चलो मैं आता हूँ. Okay, sir. Okay. Sir, the thyroid gland is situated on the neck in front of the trachea and on the lateral wall of the larynx. part of the gland is on contact with the thyroid cartilage. Hence, its name is called thyroid gland. Sir, the weight of the thyroid gland is 16 gram to 18 gram, and its size is 5 to 8 centimeter. And sir, the upper part of the lateral
मम्मा
lobes
कहाँ है?
overlap the external surface of the thyroid cartilage. Okay. The upper part of the lateral lobes overlap the external surface of the thyroid cartilage inferiorly. Posteriorly, the lateral lobe are intermediately related to the wall of the pharynx and esophagus. That is why on the lateral side, the lobe is slightly lay over the common carotid artery, internal jugular vein, and the vagus vein. And the function of this gland is the determine proper development of the tissue, bone tissue in particular, promote the process of oxidation in the body and the exchange of calcium and potassium, reducing the content of the calcium in blood and reabsorption of calcium in bones. These are the function of the thyroid gland. Then we have a parathyroid gland. The parathyroid gland is usually four in number. There are the four parathyroid glands. Two are superior and two are inferior. Okay, sir. And the quantity of gland can vary from up to 8. And the weight of this gland is 0.2 to 0.3 gram. And the parathyroid gland are located near the entering into the thyroid gland, the superior and inferior thyroid arteries. The function of the parathyroid gland is regulate calcium and phosphorus metabolism in the body. The hormone of parathyroid gland is called parathyroid hormone. The hormone that parathyroid gland secrete is called parathyroid hormone, and it activates, oscillates, promotes secretion of ions of calcium and phosphorus from bone in blood. The expiration result of those gland in death of tissue. Then we have adrenal gland. There are two glands, supra and infra-adrenal gland. The supra-adrenal or adrenal gland is a pair organs situated in the respiratory space above the superior end of the like a triangle with a rounded angle. The left adrenal gland looks like a stimulate with the rounded top. The adrenal gland has the anterior surface, the posterior surface, and the renal surface. The length of this gland is 4 to 6 centimeter. The height is about 2 to 3 centimeter. Okay, then we have the structure of adrenal gland. The adrenal supraadrenal gland is covered with the fibrous capsule. So, if is there any question about parathyroid gland is covered by what, we can say that it is covered by the fibrous capsule. Okay, so which gives the uptable cells. The first is the glamorous zone and the medulla. The secretion of adenoid and noradrenal under the normal condition is insignificant. It instinctively grow at excretion of the sympathetic nervous system in the various. So it's a major function of hormone regulate metabolic process, thyroid hormone. So if we talk about the major function of thyroid gland, its function is that it regulates the metabolic process and also control the rate of chemical reaction, growth hormone, and it's helping transport of substance across the cell membrane of target cells. For example, insulin and glucagon. And its another function is regulate water and electrolyte balance. So it's play a vital role in reproduction, growth, development, estrogen hormone, progesterone, and testosterone. So if we talk about classification, we have steroid hormone, amine hormone, peptide hormone, and protein hormone and glucoprotein hormone. So then we have mechanism of hormone action. We have a membrane receptor, cytoplasmic receptor, and nuclear receptor. So first is by altering permeability of cell membrane by activating intracellular enzyme and by acting on genes. So then we have hypothalamus. Hypothalamus integrates function that maintain chemical and temperature homeostasis. Function with the Olympic system control the release of hormones from the interior and posterior pituitary.
Hypothalamus
Synthesized
कहाँ सुना रहा है
releasing
रहने
hormone
दे
and cell bodies of neurons. Hormones are transported down the axon and stored in the nerve ending. So we have pituitary gland. Pituitary gland or a hypophysis is a small endocrine gland with a diameter of 1 centimeter and weight of 0.5 to 1 gram. So most of the pituitary hormones control other endocrine glands, and sits in silica turica surrounded by dura. Okay. Then we have anterior pituitary gland. Anterior pituitary gland is also called adenohypophysis, and it secretes tropic hormone. Tropic hormones in a pulsated fashion. Synthesize various hormones in a anterior
Hello,
pituitary.
always. Please go home. You can go.
What, sir?
You have finished. Go home. I say. Why are you outside?
Sir, there is an internet problem in a hostel
Go
today.
home. Go home. Go home right now. You have finished.
I get
Okay.
marks.
Yeah, Muhammad Usman, please.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Muhammad Usman. Muhammad Usman. Oh, I think he. Okay, Ayman
Yes, sir.
Ali.
Yes, sir.
Muhammad
Sir,
Usman,
Muhammad
please.
Usman.
You can start. Thyroid and adrenaline glands in details. Use my textbook, guys, please. Don't
Okay,
stop.
sir.
I'm here. I'm listening you.
Okay, sir. The thyroid gland is situated on the neck in front of the trachea and the lateral wall of the pharynx. And its consists of the two lobes, medial and lateral lobes, left and right lobes, sir. And a process rise is we call the isthmus. It is mostly 30% of the peoples, and sir, its weight is equal to 16 to 18 grams, and the sir, its size 5 to 8 centimeters transversal and set 2 to 3 centimeter long. These upper parts of the lateral lobes overlap the external surface of the thyroid cartilage. Inferior, the lobes extend to the fifth or sixth tracheal cartilage. Posteriorly, the lateral lobes are intimately related to the wall of the pharynx and the esophagus. So that is why in goiter it causes problems in the swelling and eating. So posteriorly, the lateral lobes are related to the wall of the pharynx and the esophagus. So laterally, the lobes slightly lay over the common carotid cartilage, carotid artery, internal jugular vein, and the vagus nerve. So in front, the thyroid gland is covered with the skin, subcutaneous fat, and the fascia of the neck. So the fascia of the neck produce these produces a fibrous capsule that divide the adrenal gland into the lobes, left and right lobes. So, the capsule gives off the processes into the tissue of the gland, which separate into the lobes. The parenchyma of the gland is presented by the significant quantity of follicles. The wall of each follicle is derivated by one layer of the cubic thyrocytes. Thyrocytes and the basement membrane, there are parafollicular cells. The thyrocytes are responsible for the synthesis of the triadenothyrosin and the tetraadenothyronine and the thyroxine. The component is iodine, and the parafollicular cells secrete antagonist of the parathyroid cell. The function of the adrenal glands, thyroid glands, the hormone of the gland determine the proper development of the tissues, bone tissues, and the particular metabolism functioning of the nervous system. Thyroxine promote the process of the oxidation in the body and the exchange of calcium phosphorus, reducing the content of calcium and the reabsorption of calcium in bones. So next, parathyroid glands. So parathyroid glands are usually four in numbers: superior, inferior, two superior, and two inferior, sir. And sir, its size is equal to 6 millimeter in length, sir, 4 millimeter in width, and 2 millimeter in thickness. The weight of this thyroid gland is 2 to 3 grams. So they are pink in youngs, but they turn into yellow with age. So the parathyroid glands are located near the entering to the thyroid gland, the superior and inferior thyroid arteries. The glands are covered with thin connective tissue capsule. From the capsule deep into the glands, go to go to trabeculus, dividing a parenchyma and lobules. The parenchyma of the gland is presented by the parathyrocytes. The function of parathyroid glands is to regulate the calcium and phosphorus metabolism, and the hormone of thyroid gland is also called the parathyroid hormone. It activates osteolytes, promotes excretion of ions, calcium, phosphorus from bonds in blood. Expiration result of those glands in death by tetanus. So next is suprarenal gland. So it is located in the over kidney at the level of 11th and 12th thoracic vertebra. They are triangle shape in triangle, and such weight is equal about 12 to 13 grams in adults. And the posterior surface of the right adrenal gland touch the lumbar part of the diaphragm and the visceral surface of the liver and the duodenum cell. It also touch the adrenal gland borders on the inferior vena cava and the left adrenal gland borders on the aorta. Posterior surface of the left adrenal gland touch the diaphragm and the bottom surface touch the superior renal pole and the medial border of the kidney cell. One or more clefts are seen on the interior surface of the gland, sir. These are the helium. The suprarenal vein leaves the gland and the arteries enter it. So it is a small hole where nerves, arteries, and veins enter into the kidney, and urine expelled through kidney. The structure of the suprarenal gland. So suprarenal gland is covered with the fibrous capsule, and it can be seen on the section that gland consists of two layers of cortex and the medulla. Cortex is formed as three zones which produce the hormones. The first glomerulus zone, and the fasciculate zone, and the reticular zone. So glomerulus zone is produce the aldosterone. Aldosterone adjusts the electrolyte, regulate, and water exchange. Second are the fasciculate zone. It produce the glucocorticoids. Their catabolic effects upon the protein exchange stimulate the blood sugar level, glycogen in the liver, and skeletal muscle and the myocardium. So third zone is the reticular zone, which produce the male and female genital hormones. We also call the reproduction hormone. The medulla consists of cells secreting adrenaline and noradrenaline. Adrenaline raises the level of the blood sugar, causing the disintegration of the glycogen, increase the break of fats, weakens smooth muscles of bronchus, raises the systolic blood pressure, and narrows the vessels of skin. It weakens the coronary vessels and the vessels of the skeletal muscles. So the secretion of the adrenal and noradrenal under the normal condition is insignificant. It intensively grows the excitation of the sympathetic nervous system in various stress situations. Right, is enough?
I think, yeah, enough. Okay, Ayman Ali. Ayman Ali.
Yes, sir.
Okay, step by step, thyroid, parathyroid, and adrenal glands. The minimum your activity should be 10 minutes, guys. Okay, don't hurry to
Okay.
finish it so early.
So the thyroid gland is situated in front of the trachea and on the lateral walls of the larynx of the part of the gland, and is contained with the thyroid cartilage. And it has two lobes, which are right and left lobe, and an isthmus which is lying transversely, and it joins the lateral lobes each other to the lower ends. And a thin process which is called the pyramidal lobe, it extends upwards from the isthmus to the hyoid bone, and the weight of this gland is 16 to 18 grams, and the size longitudinally is 5 to 8 centimeter. The vertical size of the isthmus is up to 2.5 centimeter. The upper parts of the lateral lobes overlap to the external surface of the thyroid cartilage, and then the lobes further extend to the fifth or sixth tracheal cartilage. Posteriorly, the lobes are intimately related to the walls of the pharynx and esophagus, and the esophagus, which is in the goiter, and goiter is known as the abnormal enlargement of the gland. The disorders of swelling occur due to the compression of the esophagus, and in front of the thyroid gland is covered with the skin, the subcutaneous fat, and the fascia of the neck, and this provides an external fibrous capsule to and with muscles. The capsule gives off the process of the tissues of the gland, which separate into the lobes. The parenchyma of the gland is presented significantly. The walls of each follicle is derivated by one layer of cubic thyrocytes located on the basement membrane, and these thyrocytes are responsible for triiodine and tetraiodothyronine and thyroxine, and the function of this gland includes the determination of development of the tissues, of the bone tissues, and the oxidation of the body. And thyrocalcitonin participates in the exchange of calcium and phosphorus, reducing the contents of the calcium in the blood and reabsorption of calcium in bones. Next, we have parathyroid gland. Usually consists of four, like two superior and two inferior parts and small bodies, which are situated on the posterior surface of the thyroid lobes. And these glands, the quantity may vary up to 2 to 4 of the glands, and their average dimensions are 6 millimeter in length, 4 millimeter in width, and 2 millimeter in thickness. The weight includes 0.2 to 0.3 grams. They are pink in color, but sometimes they acquire a yellowish or a brown color as they age. The parathyroid, they are located into the entering of the thyroid gland and the superior and inferior thyroid arteries. They are covered with thin connective tissues which form the capsule, and these capsules deep into the glands go tuberculous, dividing the parenchyma in lobules. The parenchyma of the gland is presented into parathyrocytes. Functionally, they regulate the calcium and phosphorus metabolism in the body. The hormone of parathyroid gland is called parathyroid hormone, and it activates osteoclasts, promotes secretion of ions and calcium and phosphorus from bones and blood, and which the glands in that by tetany. Next, we have the suprarenal or the adrenal gland, which is a paired organ, and it is situated in the retroperitoneal space lying above the kidney. The right adrenal gland, it looks like a triangle with rounded angles, while the left looks like a semilunum with a rounded top. The adrenal gland has anterior surface, posterior surface, and a renal surface. By the size, if you talk about the size, the length of this gland is 4 to 6 centimeter. The height is 2 to 3 centimeter, and its thickness varies from 0.2 to 0.8 centimeter, and the weight in adults is 12 to 13 grams. The adrenal gland lines on the level of 11 to 12 thoracic vertebra, and the posterior surface of the right adrenal gland touches the lumbar part of the diaphragm. Anterior surface touches the visceral surface of the liver and the duodenum, and the lower surface touches the upper renal pole. The medial border of the right adrenal gland on the inferior vena cava and the left adrenal gland borders on the aorta, while the posterior surface of the left adrenal gland touches the diaphragm, and the bottom surface touches the superior renal pole and the medial border of the kidney. In the front, the both glands are covered with the renal fascia and parietal peritoneum, and one or more clefts can also be seen on the interior surface of the glands. Structurally, the suprarenal gland is covered with fibrous capsule, and it is seen that the gland consists of two layers, the cortex and medulla. The cortex forms three zones, which is produced by different hormones. The first zone is the glomerular zone, and the second is the fasciculate zone, and the third is the second is the fasciculate zone. The glomerical zone is produced by the mineralocorticoids, and they adjust the electrolytic content and water exchange. While the second zone, which is the fasciculate zone, it is produced by the glucocorticoids, and they help the catabolic effect on the protein exchange, stimulate the gluconeogenesis. Also is the blood sugar level and glycogen in the liver, skeletal muscles, and myocardium. The third zone is known as the reticular zone. It is produced in both male and female, and the medulla consists of cells secreting adenine and non-adrenaline, and adrenaline raises levels of blood sugar, causing the disintegration of glycogen, increases the break of fats, weakens smooth muscles of bronchus, raises vessels of skeletal muscle. while the non-adrenaline cause the narrowing of vessels, raises systolic and diastolic pressure, weakens smooth muscles of bronchus, and the secretion of adrenaline and non-adrenaline under the normal condition is insignificant. It intensely grows at excitation of the sympathetic nervous system in various stress situations. Done, sir.
Can you show me your face? Is it possible?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Please. Thank you. Next is uh, Adil Iqbal. Adil Iqbal, please.
Yes, sir.
Step by steps. Minimum actually should be 10 minutes, please, guys. Don't try to manage it so early. Step by step. Thyroid, parathyroid, then adrenaline glands. You got it?
Okay, sir.
Adil?
Yes, yes, sir. Wait a minute.
Okay, I'm sorry.
ओ ये कहाँ पे है यार?
Use my textbook, not from Google. Use my textbook, guys.
Yes,
Sir,
sir.
his mic not working.
ओ ये
Adil?
कौन सी बनी है? आ रही है आवाज मेरी?
हाँ आ रही है.
कौन सी बुक है ये? येलो वाली है ना, 94 पेजेस वाली?
दूसरी दूसरी दूसरी.
अच्छा अच्छा.
Dusi, Adil. Adil Bakhai,
Okay,
come on.
okay, sir. Thyroid gland. Thyroid gland is situated on the neck in front of the trachea and on the lateral walls of the larynx. Part of the gland is in contact with the thyroid cartilage, hence its name. It consists of two right and left lobes and an isthmus lying transversely and joining the lateral lobes to each other near to their lower ends. A thin process which is called the pyramidal lobe extend upward in 30% cases from the isthmus and may reach the hyoid bone. The weight of the thyroid gland 16 to 18 gram. The longitudinal size is 5 to 8 centimeter. Transversal one is 5 to 6 centimeter. The vertical size of the isthmus is up to 2.5 centimeter. The upper parts of the lateral lobes overlap the external surface of the thyroid cartilage inferiorly. The lobes extend to the fifth or sixth tracheal cartilage. Posteriorly, the lateral lobes are intimately related to the wall of the pharynx and esophagus. That is why in goiter, disorder of swelling may be occur due to compression of the esophagus. Laterally, the lobes slightly lay over the common carotid artery, internal jugular vein, and vagus nerve. In front of the thyroid gland is covered with skin, subcutaneous fat, the fascia, the neck, which provides the gland an internal fibrous capsule, and with muscles of processes into the tissues of gland which separate into two lobes. The parenchyma of the gland is presented by significant quantity of follicles. The wall of each follicle is derivative by one layer of cubic thyrocytes located on the basement membrane. Between the thyrocytes and the basement membrane there are parafollicular cells. The thyrocytes are responsible for synthesis of triiodothyronine, tetraiodothyronine, and thyroxine. Their component is iodine. Parafollicular cells secrete threocalcitonin, antagonist of parathormone. Function: the hormone of the gland determines the proper development of the tissues. Bone tissue, in particular metabolism function of the functioning of the nervous system. Thyroxine promotes the process of oxidation in the body. Thyrocalcitonin participate in the exchange of calcium and phosphorus, reducing the contents of calcium in blood and reabsorption of calcium in bones. The parathyroid gland. The parathyroid gland, usually four in number, are small bodies situated on the posterior surface of the thyroid lobes. Quantity of the glands can vary from 2 up to 8, and their average dimensions are 6 millimeter in length, 4 millimeter in width, 2 millimeter in thickness. Total weight of all glands are 0.2, 0.3 gram. They are pink in young subjects but acquire a yellowish or brown color with age. The parathyroid glands are located near the entering into thyroid gland, the superior and inferior thyroid arteries. The glands are covered with the thin connective tissue capsule. From the capsule deep into the glands go trabeculus, dividing a parenchyma into in lobules. The parenchyma of the gland is presented by parathyrocytes. Function: the parathyroid glands regulate calcium and phosphorus metabolism in the hormone of parathyroid glands in is called parathyroid hormone. It activates osteoclasters, promotes secretion of ions of calcium and phosphorus from bones in the blood. The expiration results of this gland in death by tetany. Above the superior end of the corresponding kidney, the right adrenal gland of the front adrenal gland तो नहीं है, parathyroid gland. The left adrenal gland looks like a semilunum with a rounded top. The adrenal gland at the posterior surface and the renal surface. The length of this gland is 4 to 6 centimeter. The height is about 2 to 3 centimeter and thickness is 0.2 to 0.8 centimeter. The weight of the adrenal gland is in adult is 12 to 13 gram. The adrenal gland lies on the level of the 11 and 12 thoracic vertebra. The posterior surface of the right adrenal gland touches the lumbar part of the diaphragm. The anterior surface of the gland touches the visceral surface of the liver and the duodenum. The lower surface touches the upper renal pole. The medial border of the right adrenal gland borders on the inferior vena cava, and the left adrenal gland borders on the aorta. The posterior surface of the left adrenal gland touches the diaphragm and the bottom. At the front, both adrenal glands are covered with renal fascia, parietal peritoneum. One or more clefts are seen on the anterior surface of the gland. These are the hilum, which the suprarenal vein leaves the gland and the arteries enter. Its structure: the suprarenal gland is covered with a fiber capsule which gives off trabecula. It can be seen on section that the gland consists of two layers, cortex and medulla. The cortex is formed by three zones which produce different hormones. The first is glomerular zone, second is fasciculata zone, and third is reticular zone. The medulla consists of cells secreting adrenaline and noradrenaline. Adrenaline raises the level of blood sugar, causing the disintegration of glycogen, increases the break of fats, weakens smooth muscle of bronchus, raises the systolic blood pressure, narrows the vessels of skin, weakens the coronary vessels and the vessels of skeletal muscles. Noradrenaline causes the narrowing of vessels, raises the systolic and diastolic pressure, weakens smooth muscle of the bronchus, etc. The secretion of adrenaline and noradrenaline under the normal condition is insignificant. It intensively grows at excitation of the sympathetic nervous system in various stress situations.
Adil?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now Muhammad Wasif Latif. Muhammad
Yes,
Wasif
sir.
Latif.
Yes, sir.
Please, you can
Sir.
start step by steps, okay?
Okay, sir.
Try to
Sir.
explain in detail, sir. Because you are lost,
Okay, sir.
okay?
Okay, sir. Sir, the thyroid gland is situated on the neck in the front of the trachea and on the lateral walls of the larynx. Part of the gland is contact with the thyroid cartilage.
Little
Hence,
bit
that's why
faster,
it.
little bit faster, please.
Okay, sir.
Slowly,
That's why
please.
it is called thyroid gland. It consists of two right and left lobes that are connected by the isthmus lying transversely and joining the lateral lobes of each other near to the lower ends. A thin process which is called the pyramidal lobe extend upward in 30% case from the isthmus and may reach and and may reach the hyoid bone. The weight of the thyroid gland is 16 to 18 grams. The longitudinal size is 5 to 8 centimeter. Transversal one is 5 to 6 centimeter. The vertical size of an isthmus is up to 2.5 centimeter. The upper part of the lateral lobe overlap the external surface of the thyroid cartilage. Inferior the infe- inferior the lobes extend to the fifth or sixth tracheal cartilage. Posteriorly, the lateral lobe are immediately related to the wall of the pharynx and esophagus. That is why goiter, abdominal enlargement of the gland, is called a goiter. Disorder of swelling may occur due to compression of the esophagus. Laterally, the lobes slightly lay over the common carotid artery, internal jugular vein, and vagus nerve. In front of the thyroid gland is covered with skin, subcutaneous fat, the fascia of the neck, which provide the gland an external fibrous capsule and with capsule and with muscles. The muscles, the sternohyoid, the sternothyroid, and the omohyoid. The capsule gives off pancreas into the tissue of the gland, which separate it into lobes. The parenchyma of the gland is uh, presented by sufficient quantity, about 30 ml of basement membrane. Between the thyrocytes and the basement membrane, there are follicular cells. The thyrocytes are responsible for synthesis of triiodothyronine, triiodothyronine, and thyroxine. Their component is iodine. Parafollicular cells secrete thyrocalcitonin and that is antagonist of parathormone. The function of thyroid gland, the hormones of the gland determine proper development of the tissues, bone tissues in particular, metabolism, functioning of the nervous system. Thyroxine promote the process of the trioxidation in the body. Thyrocalcitonin participate in exchange of calcium and phosphorus, reducing the content of calcium in blood and reabsorption of calcium in bones. The next one is parathyroid gland. The parathyroid gland, usually four and small in size, two superior and two inferior, are small bodies situated on the posterior surface of the high thyroid lobes. Quality of the gland can vary from 2 up to 8. Their average dimension are 6 millimeter in length, 4 millimeter in width, and 2 millimeter in thickness. Total weight of all the glands are zero point 0.2 to zero point 0.3 gram. They are pink in young subjects but acquire a yellowish or brown color with age. The parathyroid gland are located near the entering to the thyroid gland, the superior and inferior thyroid arteries. The glands are covered with the thin connective tissue capsule. From the capsule deep into the gland to trabeculize, dividing a parenchyma in lobules. The parenchyma of the gland is presented by parathyrocytes. Functions: the parathyroid gland regulate calcium and phosphorus metabolism in the body. The hormone of parathyroid gland is called parathyroid hormone. It activates osteoclast, promotes secretion of ions of calcium and phosphorus from bones in blood. The extirpation or result of those glands in death by tetany. The hormones of parathyroid gland is also melatonin that is perform a specific role during sleeping. The suprarenal or adrenal gland, is a period organ situated re- uh, in the retroperitoneal space above the superior end of the corresponding kidney. The right adrenal gland at front looks like a triangle with rounded angles. The left adrenal gland looks like a semilunar with a rounded top. The adrenal gland has the anterior surface, the posterior surface, and the renal surface. The length of this gland is 4 to 6 centimeter. The height is about 2 to 3 centimeter, and the thickness is zero point 0.2 to zero point 0.8 centimeter. The width of the adrenal gland in adults is 12 to 13 gram. The adrenal gland lies on the level of 11th to 12th thoracic vertebra. The posterior surface of right adrenal gland touches the lumbar vertebra of lumbar part of the diaphragm. The anterior surface of the gland touches the visceral surface of the liver and the duodenum. The lower or renal surface touches the upper renal lobe. The medial border of the right adrenal gland borders on the inferior vena cava, and the left adrenal gland borders on the aorta. The posterior surface of the left adrenal gland touches the diaphragm, and the bottom renal surface touches the superior renal pole and the medial border of the kidney. At the front, the both adrenal glands are covered with the renal fascia and parietal peritoneum. One or more clefts are seen on the anterior surface of the gland. These are hilum, through which the suprarenal veins leaves the gland, and arteries. Superior, medial, and inferior arteries enter it. Structure: the suprarenal gland is covered with a fibrous capsule which gives off tuberculi. It can be seen on section that the gland consists of two layers, cortex and medulla. The cortex is formed of three zones which produce different hormones. The first is the glomerular zone, which is produced the mineralocorticoids, or is also called aldosterone. Aldosterone adjusts electrolyte, regulate, and water exchange. Second is the fasciculate zone, which is produced glucocorticoids. They have catabolic effect upon the protein exchange, stimulate the gluconeogenesis, raise the level of blood sugar, glycogen in the liver, skeletal muscle, and myocardium. The third is the reticular zone, which is produced the male and female genital hormone. The medulla consists of cells secreting adrenaline, and epinephrine, and non-adrenaline, also called non-epinephrine. Adrenaline raises a level of blood sugar, causing the disintegration of glycogen, increasing the break of fats, weakens smooth muscles of bronchus, raise the systolic blood pressure, narrowing the vessels of the skin, weakens the coronary vessels and vessels of the skeletal muscle. Non-adrenaline causes the narrowing of vessels except for brain, raise the systolic and diastolic pressure, weakens smooth muscles of bronchus, uh, and the secretion of adrenaline and non-adrenaline under the normal condition is insufficient. It insignificant. It intensively grows at excitation of the sympathetic nervous system in various stress situations. Okay, sir, done.
Okay, enough. Enough. Thank you. Good
Thank you,
stuff.
sir.
Muhammad Tawais, are you hear me? Muhammad Tawais,
Yes, sir.
please, I want to ask you again, is it possible?
Sir.
अवैध सर कह रहे हैं कि अगर तुम पॉसिबल हो तो
I
दोबारा
want to
सुन ले.
ask you again in details. Is it possible, always? I know you
Yes,
are
sir.
ill, but I need.
Sir, it's possible.
Okay, tell me, use my textbook, slowly explain me. Thyroid gland, parathyroid, then adrenal glands. You can start.
Okay, sir. So first is the thyroid gland.
Yes.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Sir, thyroid gland is situated on the neck in front of the trachea, and its size is 5 to 8 centimeter, and its weight is 16 to 18 gram. The upper part of the thyroid gland lateral lobes overlap the external surface of the thyroid cartilage, and inferiorly its extend to the fifth or sixth tracheal cartilage. And then we have posterior and lateral lobes are intimately related to the wall of the pharynx and esophagus. That is why in goiter, abdominal enlargement of the gland. So then we laterally the lobes slightly lay over the common carotid artery, internal jugular vein, and vagus vein. And the parenchyma of the gland is presented by significant quantity, about 30 follicles. The wall of each follicle is derivated by one layer of cubic thyrocyte located in the basement membrane. Between the thyrocytes and the basement membrane, there are parafollicular cells. The thyrocytes are responsible for synthesis of erythroid and thyroxine. Their component is iodine. Then we have function of the thyroid gland. The hormone of the gland determines proper development of the tissue, uh, metabolism, functioning of the nervous system. And the hormone thyroxine promote the process of oxidation in the body and participate in the exchange of calcium and phosphorus, reducing the contents of calcium in blood and reabsorption of the calcium in bones. Then we have a parathyroid gland. Okay. Okay. In the parathyroid gland, usually four in membrane, four are gland, and the two are superior and two are inferior, and are small bodies situated on the posterior surface of the thyroid lobes. Quantity of the glands can vary from up to 8. And the function of a parathyroid gland is the regulate calcium and phosphorus metabolism in the body. And the the glands are separated into two superior. The parathyroid gland are separated into two superior and two inferior ones. The location of the superior parathyroid gland is quite constant at the level of inferior border of the carotid cartilage, 1 centimeter superior to the entry point of the inferior thyroid arteries into the thyroid gland. The function of the parathyroid gland maintain calcium level in the body by producing parathyroid hormone. So our parathyroid hormone maintain our calcium levels in blood by releasing of a hormone is called parathyroid hormone. Together with the calcium, these two hormones maintain the level of calcium ion in the blood, which is important in bone health as well as muscle and nervous system function. So it's then we have the supraadrenal gland. The supraadrenal or adrenal gland is a pair organ situated in the retroperitoneal space above the on the top of the kidney. Okay, they have a yellowish. Our adrenal gland have a yellowish appearance and are located between the supromedial aspect of the kidney and the diaphragm. Though so the adrenal gland are surrounded by renal fascia, which is also provide an attachment point to the cura of the diaphragm. A septum separates the gland from the kidneys. The two glands are not identical. The right one is more pyramidal and apical, while the left one is more crescent shaped. So there is a difference between these two glands. They also have slightly different position and relations. Okay, so then we have structure and the function of the adrenal gland. The gland are divided into two parts. So adrenal glands are divided into the parts, the adrenal cortex and the adrenal medulla. So what is adrenal cortex? The adrenal cortex is the outer part of the adrenal gland and produce hormones vital to life such as glucocorticoids. The hormone hydrocortisone or cortisol or corticosterone. Hydrocortisone regulate energy production, blood pressure, and heart function. Then we have corticosterone. This play also important role in immune responses and reduction in inflammation. Then we have the other part, which is adrenal medulla. Before that, I explain adrenal cortex. Now it's adrenal medulla. So what is adrenal medulla? Adrenal medulla is the inner portion of the gland. So it is actually a mass of nervous tissue containing many capillaries and sensoids. The medulla produce hormones such as adrenaline. The adrenal medulla help the body deal with the stress by producing two hormones, epinephrine and norepinephrine. Epinephrine is more commonly known as adrenaline and is involved in the body fight or flight response. So this hormone epinephrine is released when we are in the situation like fight or flight response, like increasing heart rate and blood glucose level and causing an increase in blood flow to the brain and muscles. So then the other hormones that is secreted by adrenaline is norepinephrine work with the adrenaline by contracting blood vessel and increase blood pressure during this stress response.
Okay, guys, everyone turn on your camera. You have 10 seconds. 1, 8, 9, 10. Come on. Muhammad Usman, Korea. Oh, that's good. Usman, how's your practice going on at Tafel? Muhammad Usman. Muhammad Usman and Ibtisam. Muhammad Usman and Ibtisam, are you hear me? Oh, sorry guys, I mat your mat, sorry. Now you can talk.
Yes, sir. The
Everybody-
practice is going very good.
Yes,
We
sir,
are
it was
missing you
good.
in the practice, sir.
But we
Now,
missed
with me, you are getting a practice. Ладно, спасибо, решай. Oh, okay, it means I have really good news for you. The
Yes, sir.
GIT and the reproductive system practice teacher is a boy, okay? In the current system we have finished, I will explain about the GIT and reproductive system lecture. Then a new teacher will touch you, will test you, will teach you. Are you getting me?
Down that.
Hello guys, are you getting me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I see you. Alina Khan, don't be sad. Don't be sad. Smile. Ayman Ali, smile, please. Okay, Muhammad Latif, smile. I say smile, Latif. Okay.
What's the smile?
Sir, where are you?
Smile.
It's a secret.
Sir, please
Okay,
turn
guys,
on
bye,
your
see you.
camera.
No. God bless you. God bless. Okay. God bless you 2 times. God bless me 5 times. Bye. See you.
Have a nice day, sir. Have a nice day.